So, Aaron, thank you so much for joining me on this interview series that I'm doing called Lessons from Lockdown. As we discussed previously, so many people are going through various hardships, various emotional, mental, relational, occupational, just all kind of struggles and pressures. And this year has been a year that will be remembered. I'll just say that. And I started this series called Lessons from Lockdown in hopes of being able to show people that even though you may have tough times, even though there may be challenges, even though there are things that come out of the blue that take you by surprise, there are always some lessons that happen when you go through trials. And in this time where we were in a fast-paced world, the world actually had an opportunity to slow down, and individuals like us had time to slow down as well and be actually locked down, confined to our homes or wherever, and going, minimal places. And I'm sure some lessons have come out of that. And so, again, I appreciate you just agreeing to be on here and sharing a little bit about yourself and your story and the lessons that you've gotten. So let our listeners know a little bit about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself before we get started with the questions.
All right. Well, but they don't know. My name's Aaron Ziglar. I'm 32 years old. I'm a husband to a beautiful wife, Catherine, who has given me 2 beautiful sons. I don't think there's really much to tell. I mean, I'm a pretty simple man, man of faith. I dream big, and I'm just still working towards really bringing my dreams to reality. I'm aspiring chef and food truck restaurateur, if you want to put a label on me. But I have so many things that I'm passionate about or interested in developing. Sometimes I think I have too much, and it kind of cripples me. But there's so much I want to do and want to see happen, and I'm just really in the midst of establishing that base so I can move forward in all of them. That's me.
Awesome. Well, you didn't mention you were a gamer.
Oh yeah, I game from time to time. I mean, I'm nowhere as intensive about it as Todd, but I game from time to time. I can get on and get shot at. I lose with grace. Not going pro gaming anytime soon.
Right. I had to bring that up because I see that sometimes you're up with my husband playing late online, and so I had to just throw a couple shots there virtually on my own. So besides gaming and doing whatever else you've been doing during this time of lockdown, one of the things that I wanted to ask is, like I mentioned before, everybody has been going through different things during this time.
Absolutely.
If you could use one word to describe your experience going through lockdown or being in this pandemic or being in quarantine or whatever words you've been using, you could use one word to describe that time. What word would you choose, and then why?
It's been revealing, I think, is one, because I've learned a lot about myself, my motivations, and a lot of my relationships too in this time of lockdown. Some stuff good, some stuff bad, but it's definitely showed me a lot of stuff, and a lot of some of it's not really been something I wanted to see or something I wanted to acknowledge that I've seen for a long time. So definitely revealing about myself, about my relationship with my wife, and my career aspirations, and even the way I work on my motivations. But definitely revealing.
I like that. I like that word, revealing. And you're right. Whenever we see something about ourselves or we learn something new, it's not always comfortable, but I think those are the times that we really grow, when we're faced with situations that are uncomfortable for us. I was in a workshop probably a few years ago, and I always use this example when I'm talking about being uncomfortable, but the lady who hosted the workshop said, she came up on the board and she drew like 3 circles, a small circle, a larger circle around the small circle, and then a larger circle around that, and I'm visualizing it. That's why my head's spinning like that. But in the middle, she wrote the comfortable zone. And then outside of that, she put the uncomfortable zone. And then on the third layer, she put the panic zone. And she said, where do you think real growth and development takes place? And her answer was not just on the edge of comfortable and uncomfortable, but actually on the edge of uncomfortable and panic, like teeter-tottering, where you're going to be like, ah, that when you feel that feeling, you know that growth and change is taking place. And I think that's where we need to be to kind of get better. And sometimes when those things are revealed to us about ourselves, it definitely gets us to that panic place, because we all want to think that we have it all together and we have all the answers. And then we realize, okay, maybe I don't. So when you talk about this season being just revealing for you, what lessons have you learned, lessons with an S, have you gotten just from this season for yourself personally?
Where to start? I was thinking about this one, and I think the most prominent lesson I've learned is that nothing's going to be handed to me. Obviously we have a relationship on a level, so some of the dreams that I've had and wanted. And it's not something that I just came up with recently, but it's something I've talked about for like maybe even years on end. But even though I've been talking about it, we haven't seen much fruit. And I have always have this kind of idea that as long as I am, following God and keeping my nose clean and following the path, that things are going to fall into my lap and they're just going to happen for me. And that's not necessarily the case. I have to put some effort and some work into it. And it's not that I'm not capable, but I've learned that sometimes my motivation isn't there. And sometimes it's overwhelming to the point to where instead of trying to face it head on, like chunk at a time, because I'm the type of person that if I don't get a lot of traction quickly, then it's hard for me to keep going at something and stick to it and being determined. And so, with that, I'll be also easily distracted. So, I'm supposed to have been working on the business plan for my food truck, and I go to work on it, and like it's so much to consider, and so I'll sit there and think about some things and maybe write down one or two sentences about what I think, and it's like, oh man, that was so exhausting. I'll go play a game or something, or I'll go fix a sandwich, even though I just ate a sandwich or something like that. Just anything to not really face head on what it is that I'm working on, and I've come to realize I just have this attitude that things are going to be easy, just because I'm fairly smart, I'm fairly capable, and so things shouldn't be a challenge for me. And overcoming that challenge has been probably my biggest challenge.
Yeah, that I mean, most people, myself included, we want things that come to us easy. I was talking to somebody earlier, and we're like, there's only so far that talent and your gift can take you. We can get pretty far with just our skills, just because people like us. And then there's that next level that we cannot get to without being disciplined and pushing through. And that's the part that we really don't like. And so it's good that you've kind of, learned that along the way, because you are going to be successful in your business, and so just getting past that initial stage, and anything worth having is worth fighting for, or worth, really pushing for. So when you think about the hurdles that you face since probably March, I mean, this has been going on for a while, actually, this whole lockdown, but I think March 16th in Columbus, Ohio is when we kind of had our stay-at-home order, and everything kind of slowed down more for us. So since then, have you faced any hurdles personally that you would like to share with us? And if so, can you share which hurdles you went through and how you have overcome them, or how you are overcoming them? Because I don't want to take for granted that some of us, like even myself included, like there's been hurdles that I had that I overcame. And then there's hurdles that I'm still working throughout this time, and it's still teaching me, but I'm using, steps and strategies to kind of help get me through it. And so can you share some of the hurdles that you're having and what you're doing to get through them, or what you've done to get through them? And sometimes you have to go like this when you're talking so you can put the words in order.
Funny thing is, I don't think I've really had during the lockdown, I haven't really had any hurdles, but that's not because they haven't been there. It's just I've been avoiding them. Like, so if I'm running the 100-meter hurdles, I'm just running around the side of them instead of while everybody's jumping over them. It's just like I'm going to focus on the things that I'm doing, like almost kind of like dumbing down, your routine in your life so that you don't give yourself an opportunity to have any kind of challenge or opposition. For me, back when the lockdown started, life didn't really change for me. I didn't work at a place, or I didn't work at a place where working from home was an option like a lot of people. I was cooking at a not a mental health, but a drug rehabilitation center at the time. And so it's not like I could email the meals for the day to the clients. I had to go inside and still work. So for me, the longest it was business as usual. And so I spent a lot of time. I had three other people in my household. I'm going to work, and since I'm the one going out the house most of the time, a lot of the out of the house duties fell to me at the early points in the lockdown. Just grocery shopping and running all the errands. Just buying the stuff that we need. And so I got into a routine of that and focused on that. And so I wasn't really doing anything to even present or allow a hurdle to come up or present a challenge to me. And so now I guess the biggest hurdle for me is, long story short, in July I got laid off from my position. Now the biggest hurdle I'm trying to overcome is, just not remaining unemployed. Finding a new job when people really aren't hiring, finding a job that probably puts me in a better position to do some things I want to do that I couldn't afford working the job I was before. And just trying to navigate that, as a man and a man who prides himself on taking care of his family, it is a bit of a challenge, when you don't have any income coming in. For me, unemployment hasn't kicked in yet, so I haven't had a paycheck in 2 weeks now, since I got my last paycheck from my job. And just, I'm not necessarily the hustler type. I always prided myself on being savvy and making, having foresight and making moves ahead of time, or, being able to do the things quickly to have some insurance in place to take care of whatever I needed to. And right now, a lot of things are outside of my control. And at this point, you leave a situation optimistic that things will get better. But as I've been applying for jobs, doing my unemployment claims week in and week out and not getting any traction anywhere, not getting any second looks, not getting any calls for interviews, you look up and you look yourself in the face in the mirror and you're just like, what am I going to do? This is like, I guess this is that panic zone you talked about now. It's like, it's do or die. And I can't just sit here waiting for the opportunity to present itself. It's cool not having to wake up early and roll out of bed and get dressed and go into an uncertain situation, as far as, just my health protection and everything goes. But it's also only so much I can do sitting around the house applying for jobs. I can only wash dishes so many times. I can only sweep the floor so many times. I can only, I can only play with my son so many times. I love him to death, but I can't play blades in the washing machines every day. And so the challenge now is figuring out what to focus on. So I am trying to make a career pivot from being a chef to working back in IT for a little while so I can support my dreams, just build a little bit more income. And while I have some IT experience on my resume, it's a long time ago, and I don't have any recent certifications. So a lot of the stuff, even the entry level stuff, I'm like just by a millimeter unqualified for, and it's crazy. So I have to find ways to get around that. So I've invested in some training materials to start learning some certifications, so I can make myself more marketable and attractive to employers. But until I get those, it's kind of like, I'm not sure if it's going to work. But one thing I know is that if I just keep working at it and I commit to making it happen, something's got to happen, right? And in the meantime, just trying to figure out a way to even incorporate the things that I want to do ultimately, like cooking for people and having a food truck and seeing how I can apply that in a situation, maybe even make some money. Um, but right now everything's up in the air, and so I just got to keep working and plugging away.
Well, if you cook some stuff on that smoker that you have, we will buy some. Yeah. But you're definitely in a spot, like with, being laid off, that a lot of people, a lot of our listeners probably have lost their employment as well. And sometimes, a thing that is not necessarily good can turn out for your good. And just like when we began the conversation talking about, sometimes the lessons that you get, or things that are revealed, are only revealed in times of trouble or times of trials. And so you mentioned that you have aspirations to have a food truck and to cook. And so sometimes things happen and you probably have an opportunity to kind of reset and refocus. And so you'll definitely find something. And I'll make one point before I move to the next question about just your resume and your job. It doesn't matter if you're a little bit unqualified, apply anyway. I mean, sometimes the only thing that employer is looking for is that you have the majority of the skills and that you're willing to learn. And so if there's something that you apply for that you don't necessarily have all the skills for, all you have to do is be prepared to talk about how you would do it and how it relates to something else you've done. Because honestly, even being at home and gaming, people probably don't realize how much technology goes into building your computer, your gaming computer. When things go down, like making sure you have all the right specs and all. I mean, I'm not a gamer. I don't know. I just watch what Todd does. But
No, absolutely. Like, my niece lives with me. My wife is working from home, and so I spent the first 2 weeks of lockdown running cables around my house so that they could have secure internet access, and just setting up my desk. I moved my whole office down to the basement so my niece could have my office and working every
wow.
day. Yeah, and I had to drill through the floor because I moved the modem and the router downstairs, ran cable upstairs to her room. I had to drill through the wall so that my wife could have a secure cable network or secure network access too. I've been doing stuff, and it's just a matter of getting. I know I have the skill. It's just like making myself attractive enough to somebody to figure it out that I have the skill. Believe me, I've been applying for stuff I'm grossly unqualified for, but like, you're gonna give me a shot. Somebody's gonna give me a shot.
Yeah, they will. I mean, they definitely will. So yeah, you'll get something. So earlier you mentioned that, and I keep thinking about the word you use, revealing. I like that word. And you said you've learned so much about yourself. What have you learned about yourself during this time?
And I don't like to talk about myself. But no, I mean, it just kind of goes hand in hand with some of the things I've talked about, is that, that nothing's going to be handed to me. But some of the reasons I feel like I've had this, it's not even a sense of entitlement that I've had, but it's just like, again, growing up, I was part of like gifted and talented programs. I was always the top of my class. So things came easy for me, even as a young child. And it's always been kind of hard for me to break out of that mindset. Because even as an adult, stuff came easy to me. Like, I mean, this is not really bragging, but my wife approached me. I didn't even pursue her. Like, she told me that she wanted to date me, and I was like, I'm cool with that. We can rock. Like, so
can't wait to show her this clip.
Show her. I mean, I've said it to her plenty of times, so she knows. But like, it's just like, I kind of have this feeling like I was a golden child, and as if I just wanted it, it would happen, or it would just work, And so I feel emotionally, I realize that that's contributed to me kind of just like, okay, as long as I'm just a nice guy, as long as I'm just, a consistent worker, that things are going to work out. But there's sometimes a level of effort that I need to put into it that I don't. And it's something I've just come to realize in the past couple of weeks, and on top of that, being in a depressing situation, not necessarily depressed, but in a depressing situation where you've lost pretty much everything, and the things you hang your hat on as your identifiers and the root of who you are, it makes you really consider what your next steps are, where you're going to go. And so for me, it's just, dealing with those underlying things so that my mindset and my mentality approaching the things I want to do is correct, so I can be successful. Understanding that it's going to take a little hard work. Like again, like I was unemployed, and the last two times I needed to update my resume, my wife has done it for me, just because she's better at those things. But I
Mhm.
purposefully took on that responsibility myself. One, because she's at work in anyway, and she's not going to have time to just sit here and help my unemployed self get everything together. But I wanted to make sure that I am sharpening my mind and sharpening my skills so that I can be capable within myself to do what I need to do. And that was sort of a test for me, like, can I do this? And it came out really well. It took me like a week and a half to really get it done, between trying to figure
So,
out focusing and figuring out exactly what it is I need to do, because I had to watch YouTube videos, I had to read articles. What does a good resume look like? What are the things I need to avoid? What are the things I need to do? And then taking that information and putting it in a way that makes sense on my resume with the skills that I have.
mhm.
And so that was, I guess, a win for me that encouraged me. But now I need to be able to scale that methodology for something bigger, like writing a business plan for a food truck, or
Yeah.
studying for a certification to get a job that's going
Mhm.
to give me a little bit of financial security so I can do the things that I want to do, or just to be able to uh, relate to and communicate my feelings to my family. Um, because oftentimes, I'm one of these people that uh, if everybody else is good, I'm good, or that's what I tell
Mhm.
myself, but not realizing or not acknowledging that the inverse needs to be true. That
Mhm.
from everybody else to be good, I need to be good. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep.
and so I think I kind of got lost from the question here a little bit.
No, no,
Uh,
that this is really good. We're talking about, what you learned about yourself. And so that, I mean,
yeah,
that's really, like, even learning that it's okay for you to not be okay and say you're not okay just because everybody else is okay. If that,
right.
I think I said that right.
Yeah, and then so on top of that, taking the steps to make yourself be okay without feeling
Yes.
guilty, without making others feel guilty, but by effectively communicating your needs, which is something I'm still struggling with. It's a lot easier for me to just say nothing, especially if
Mm-hmm.
somebody has a misconception, or especially if somebody is not um, tuned into what my needs are. It's better for me to say, well, I don't need that negativity. I don't need that lack of
Mm-hmm.
understanding. I'll just deal with it myself. Because again, I've always been self-sufficient. So it's easier to retreat into myself and not accept help. Even when I've got a support system right in my face that's saying, hey, if you need us, let us know.
Mm-hmm.
Almost to the point where people have to impose themselves on me to draw me out of my shell. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so just being able to navigate kind of rebuilding the foundation of who I am while not letting a depressing situation make me depressed, and then also maturing my
Mm-hmm.
emotional acumen to be able to uh, take care of myself, but not also, uh, you know, not be a resource to other people.
Yeah.
And it's a bit difficult, but I've learned that that's what I need to do to move forward and be successful.
Yeah, that's so true. So first, I'll rewind before I even comment, because my doorbell rang. We opened the back door. There was people here talking. So I don't want to ignore that, because that will be on the recording. Guess what, everybody? People are working remote. They're doing things remotely at home, and stuff happens. So I'm not even going to cut that out of the recording. It's life. We all have life. So yes, you heard the doorbell ring and somebody came. Sidebar. So here's
Better than
why
money.
somebody had to come. Todd, my husband, caught our deck on fire. The other, yeah. So these are the contractors coming to give us an estimate on the deck. So I have to. So at any rate, cooking on the grill, he had wood chips, coal, and then so I guess he let the coals get down to zero. So he said, and then usually he waits until the next day to put the coals or whatever in the trash. But this time I think he waited like an hour or something like that. And so he said it was down to zero. He scooped all the stuff and put it in the trash can on the deck. And then he went downstairs to play the video game. This was the other day. And hours went by. He had to use the restroom. Well, our downstairs bathroom, you can see the deck from the bathroom, and he was using the bathroom, and he just so happened to look out the window, and he saw that there was a small fire on our deck. And so so he caught our deck on fire, so some of the wood got burnt, and so now we need to get it
well, don't blame the games, okay? It's just Todd.
Oh, it was the game, because
no.
he was so busy to rush to go get back down. See, that's the life lesson. When you try to rush things, just like your background, things
catch on fire.
Catch on fire. Exactly. And so that happened, and we wanted to get the people out as soon as possible. So the contractor came out, and he went to the door, and so I waved at him. So you saw in the video, so you see that we're going to hopefully we get a new deck out of this, because our deck was old anyway. So.
Wait, man.
Yeah. So, Lord, please let us get a whole brand new deck out of this. But anyway, I had to say that, because when we go back to the recording and then they hear the doorbell and see me waving and hear all that, I didn't want to. So now, fast forward back to what I was saying. Now, where did I leave off? We were talking about what you learned about yourself, and you were talking about how you realize that you don't necessarily like to express yourself that much as long as everybody else is good. And Todd is actually the same way. Maybe it's a gamer trait. I don't know. And so I've been trying to prod him and encourage him to, like, say what you want. Otherwise, you won't get what you want, and I won't know, and so, or no one else will. And so sometimes when you're a caring person, you do try to care for everybody else first and not care for yourself. And so I like that you brought that point up. Sometimes slowing down in life, like during this time, has hopefully allowed a lot of people to see, like, you know what? I need to care for myself. I need to, care for, what do they say? Self-care, your mental health. All that is real. Like mental health, you have a mental health state, whether it's good, bad, and different. We all have a mental health state. And with having a lot of things going on, even for me during this time, for the first couple months, we didn't have our son in any daycare. Of course, the daycares were shut down, and he's almost 2, and we both were working remote, so we didn't get to leave and go out the house. We had, I guess, the privilege or whatever, however people see whatever, to be at home. But even though it was a privilege to be able to work at home, guess what? We still had to work. And he learned to climb. He recently learned to throw things forward. He needs to eat. He's got diapers. Life goes on. Life goes on. And he was running around. And when I tell you, like, let me get up to the camera. I was like this close to probably like snapping, like after the next couple months, because I was like, even though Todd would have kept him downstairs with him while he was working, he preferred to be with me. And so that meant that while I was working, I needed to manage him. And plus, Todd's job is a lot different. He's working on customer systems that probably require a lot more focus than for me. I may be in customer meetings or internal meetings where it will be easier for me to focus on both things. But it was definitely a lot. And I had to realize, like, I was snapping on Todd. I was frustrated. And sometimes when you're frustrated, then some people take it within and some people express it outwardly. And so then I started like just getting real short with him but I had to realize that, like, okay, that's unfair to him. We're all in this together. How can I protect my mental well-being, because I'm not in a good space. And so what I started doing is getting up a little earlier and going for a walk, and like just a small time to myself to look at the outside, to look at the trees, and just, and the physical activity. And honestly, that helped me. And since then, I've been walking almost every single day, finding that time. And I feel like it's actually a getaway for me to do that. And so I think each person has to find what is it that helps me get to that place. And then I learned, like being present in the moment and not trying to be as frustrated and asking myself. I was listening to an audiobook, and one of the things that the author said was, when something happens, ask yourself, is this going to matter 10 years from now? And so I started doing that. Like, okay, what am I frustrated about? Is this going to matter 10 years from now? If the answer was no, then it's like, okay, then I don't really need to stress about it. If it is going to matter, then I need to do something now so that, it can change later. And so even just that change in perspective helped me to not be as frustrated and to think about, like, you know what, instead of thinking like, oh my gosh, TJ's here, that's my son's name, running around and doing all this and I got to work. I'm like, you know what, there was a time where I was like, he's going to the babysitter every day and I don't get that much time with him. I'm like, appreciate the fact that I do have him home and I can see him growing, and I can see him, like, he learned how to bark like a dog from watching the TV show. That, I mean, little things. Hey, he could have barked at the babysitter's house for the first time. Not that I want him to say some words, but I'm just saying, like, even those little things, just appreciating the small things. And so, in thinking about what you've learned, is there anything that you plan to change or that you have changed throughout all this experience?
For me, it's really getting back to the basics, setting a routine that I can stick to that's going to help me be successful, while also being equitable to the people around me. I can't, even though I know that I need to take care of myself, I can't just abandon my responsibilities and just be out here, out, not in the streets, but out doing whatever it is I need to do to build myself without, helping the people around me. And so it's setting routines that are mutually beneficial, is the things that I need to do. And so I've sat down and worked on a Google Calendar of how my ideal day would go. And then it's just a matter of sticking to it. My biggest issue right now is just making sure my bedtime is around 10 o'clock. It usually ends up being about 11:30, 12:30 if I'm reading a good comic or something like that. So, and so then I can't turn around and wake up at 5 o'clock with an hour and a half of sleep.
Yeah.
But really it's for me, it's getting back to the basics, because once I have the basics mastered, I can start to build upon those. And it's really, for me, that simple. I know a lot of people would probably say, well, if you have mental health, you need to read these books about mental health, and you need to go talk to a counselor. And not that any of that stuff's not good or helpful. For me, I think I've identified the sources of my mental unrest, and now it's a lot more has to do with my health, my behaviors, and the things I consume. And so I need to change those, and not necessarily lay on the couch and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And so for me, the basic things, just drinking more water instead of running out and grabbing a soda every time I'm thirsty. Choosing to get up and walk around the block, because I'm not going to the gym right now in these times, to get a little exercise in, spending a few minutes or a few hours, reading my word or praying. And it's really establishing those things that are going to recenter my life, and help me move forward. Because at the end of the day, if I have internal peace, then it allows me the liberty to focus on the things and learn. Like, because the stuff that I want to do as far as building a food truck, and starting restaurants and the other business ventures I want to do, all shooting from that, it's stuff I'm going to have to learn as I go along anyway. And so just knowing that I have a base and a center to work from, it'll go a long way in helping me focus on those things. So it's just really getting back to the core of who Aaron needs to be, and setting that in stone so that it's unshakable, so that when I do start to build these dreams up to the sky, they don't fall apart.
Right. I like what you said about getting back to the basics, because so many times we want, by we, I just mean we as a people, some elaborate answer to our problems. We want, like, take these 97 steps and everything's going to be perfect. And sometimes it's like something small, like just drink more water, get more rest, and you'll feel better.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I did, I sometimes can be a what is it, a hoarder? Is that what they call it? A hoarder? Whatever. So I'll have just stuff everywhere. And I was in the habit of just going. So I didn't even notice all the clutter that I had in the house. Honestly, I just didn't know. And maybe I did know, but I was coming in, going to bed, doing so many different things that it didn't bother me. But being home more, I realized like it was causing me unrest, and Todd didn't like it. And so I took this time, and I'm not finished yet, but I started going through all kind of stuff and just throwing away. Like I got rid of bags and bags of clothes. I got rid of stuff in the kitchen that we weren't using, dishes, pots, just stuff that I just had. Clothes, shoes that I probably had for like 10 years, and it's like they're beat up, and I was keeping and holding on to them like, but I like these. And it's like, you know what? They don't even fit in my closet. Like I have too much stuff. And even getting rid, like to me, that's a basic thing. Get rid of the clutter around you, because it was honestly a reflection of the clutter that was in my mind. And it's a basic thing. So I definitely agree with you there with getting back to the basics. Now, speaking of like, I think you mentioned something about a comic that you read or whatever. Is there anything that you've listened to, heard, or read that you feel has inspired you like during this time?
So that's the thing. I when I get in situations like I am now, my default defense mechanism probably is to just internalize and just kind of turn inward. So I usually end up cutting off a lot of the voices outside of me. And I don't start reading a whole bunch of inspirational stuff to lift my mood. Maybe I should, who knows? But one thing that's consistent is my attendance at church. And so a lot of times I draw inspiration from the things that my man of God, Jeff Haygood, says. He preached a message first Sunday of this month just about getting back to what matters. And just, I couldn't name to you off the top of my head, like maybe one of the granular points, but the overall message of just evaluating what really makes a difference in your life, what impacts your life, and what's really driving your life, and getting back to finding what matters. Because we go through life and we accumulate stuff, we accumulate ideologies, we accumulate people that don't necessarily reflect what matters in our life, and they're not necessarily directly against what matters in our life. They might have even added value to our life at one point in time, but it put me in this mode of evaluating everything around me, mainly myself, to see what it is that is my motivation, what it is that I'm doing, and what it is that I need to be doing, and just the fundamental understanding of finding out what really matters in this season. Because when I find out what matters, or what matters to me, what matters to God for my life, then that will shine a light towards the path that I need to take to move forward. And so that's really inspired me in this season.
I think that's huge too. Just really realizing what matters most, where you should spend your time, your energy, your thoughts, and all that stuff. I think that's really good. If you could give any advice or words of wisdom to any of the listeners who are still struggling emotionally or having tough times and maybe can't see their way out, what would that advice be?
So I mentioned this a little bit before, but don't confuse a depressing situation for being depressed.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm generally a happy guy. I'm generally a laid back guy. And so that may be a contributor to how I find myself in some of these situations that I might not do enough ahead of time, but still time and chance happens to everybody, right? So, I could have lost my job even if I was like the director of the whole program or something. Like, who knows what, but it's a setback and it's depressing. And then you also may have this emotional turmoil on the inside, but that doesn't mean that you're in a state of depression. It can lead to depression if you don't recognize, the situation that you're in and start taking measures to rectify it. But what you need to understand when you're in a depressing state or a situation is to don't lose hope. There's got to be something at the end of it. You've got to believe that there is better coming to you, even if you can't see better. And just, for me, that's resting on the promises of God. God has spoken some things to my life that I haven't seen come to pass yet. And so it's like, I know things are bad right now, but there's more for me. And at the very least, if everything else falls apart, I'm going to keep my eyes on that prize. And so also don't isolate yourself. I mentioned that, I tend to internalize everything and get into my internal monologue and maybe even overanalyze and overthink. But it's not even that you necessarily need somebody to, you know, vomit all your troubles and your thoughts on, but just have people that can distract you, because we're always harder than in situations when we're down, we're always harder on ourselves than anybody else. And then in situations when we're up, we're always higher on ourselves than anybody else. Is how it tends to go. And so having somebody outside of ourselves to um, be a breath of fresh air is helpful. And even if it's just something as simple as them telling you a joke, or they're sharing
Hmm.
something funny with you, or even if them just sharing how their life is going, uh, it can be motivation. uh, I told my brother the other day, Jerome, hey, good, I you know I may be dragging my feet on my business, but seeing you do the things that he's doing with his brand, shout outs to Arrogant Apparel Co. Arrogantapparel.com, check it
Shout
out,
out.
y'all. um it's inspiring me, and it helps me to move forward. And you got to have those people around you to help
Hmm.
you see better, especially when it's hard to see better. And if you get to a point where this depressing situation or this pressing time turn into depression, that whatever you do, ending it all is not an option. It shouldn't be.
Hmm.
It doesn't do anything but cause problems for the people you leave behind and distraught, and it doesn't solve anything for you. You leave pain here for pain somewhere else. Is the way I'll put it.
Yeah.
And you know, you, there's for anybody, saved or not, there's a purpose that God has for anybody. So if you end it
Hmm.
all before you get a chance to get there, you don't get to see it. You don't get to
Yeah.
experience the good. Ups and downs come with life, and you can't necessarily control that. If you can't always have a happy time, but if you can hold on, even if you don't hold on for yourself, but for your kids, or for your spouse, or for your family, uh, things will turn around. It just find support, hold on to support, uh, and be open, and be able to accept um, insights about yourself that aren't necessarily palatable, or stuff that you would want to hear.
Hmm.
Because sometimes we're the biggest source of our own unhappiness, and we can't see it because we think the things that we're doing are helping us, so that we're always have our best interests at heart. But sometimes we can be our own worst enemy. So having outside voices to speak to you and to encourage you, to give you insight, it'll go a long way in helping you lift your head and be able to look forward.
Yeah, that's really good. So speaking of looking forward, in the beginning, I asked you if you could use one word to describe this time of lockdown. What would that word be? And you said revealing. So in looking forward to the remainder of 2021, it sounds like you have some hopes and dreams for yourself. If you could choose one word to describe what the remainder of 2020 is going to be for you, what would that word be, and why?
Well, I'm a cheat here and use two words because
Okay.
it's a hybrid at this point. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me, I feel like the first 8 months of 2020 have felt like almost rock bottom. Uh, and though there have been things to celebrate, uh, with me coming to myself and coming to a base and a center,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what things look like moving forward. I don't have that plan yet. So the uncertain would be the first word, but I'm hopeful because I, I,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I am on a path that's going to be better for me. And it may be
Yeah.
hard. It may not be the most fun I've ever had in my life. And it may not result in any kind of great tangible gain in 2020. But I'm hopeful that if I can stay the course that I've put myself on now, or I'm working to put myself on, that greater things will come. And so I'm excited for the lessons that I'll be learning. I'm excited for the wins that I'll have,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm excited for the groundwork that I'll lay. And even if things aren't the greatest right now, they're going to be better. So it's uncertain, but it's hopeful for me.
I like that. When you said uncertain and hopeful, I had a visualization of like a roller coaster, how as you're on a roller coaster, you're inching up, and you're uncertain, like, how is this going to be? And then finally you drop real fast and it's exciting. And you have, what is it? Two opposing feelings kind of at the same time. But it turns out okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Aaron. I don't know if you have any, like, if somebody wanted to connect with you, like, and follow you and get inspiration from you or whatever, do you have any, like, social media handles or anything that you want to share, or pages or anything like that? If so, share it with us, or if not, that's okay too.
I mean, I have my personal social media.
Okay.
I mean, I don't do much on it, but if you find me interesting people and you want to follow me, it's at AZ1U on Instagram and Twitter. And then just my name on Facebook, Aaron Ziglar. Again, I want to shout out my boy Jerome Haygood and Arrogant Apparel Co. He has an Instagram and a Facebook, so go follow him. He's got a website, arrogantapparelco.com. He's got a collection dropping this Saturday, August 15th. So go check out some of the stuff he's got. It's really good. Just know you can't get to heaven on a rocket ship. And then I want to shout out my other brother, Bradley Bry. He's got a awesome lawn care company, Bradley and Sons, operates here in Columbus, Ohio. He's got a Facebook page that you can check out. He does really good work. When I can't get to cut my grass, I call him to cut it. He recently pulled up my garden bed, and he put down mulch for me, and it looked fantastic. So these are some good young brothers. Especially if you're looking to support a Black-owned business, these are some guys. And I'll make sure that Sherry puts the link in the descriptions and stuff in the description so that you can get to that too. But if you don't follow me, follow these guys, because they got something to offer you if you're looking for something tangible.
That just shows, really, even you sharing somebody else's business on the way out to give somebody else a shout out, it just shows your character of being a servant. And so that's just, when you are thinking about others and preferring others, I think you're sowing good seeds into your future. So I know whatever you do is going to prosper. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you for having me. It was actually